Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Lung Pamay, and in this video I'll be showing you how to use ADO library to work with Excel. In the past I published multiple series on ADO to work with Access database, SharePoint or SQL Server, and also a bit with Excel as well, which you can find them from the playlist section. While Excel is not a proper database, but this functionality can become very useful because you know that Excel can be very difficult to work with when it's very heavy. So guys, before we begin, please do not forget to subscribe if you haven't and hit the bell icon for upcoming videos. Okay, so here's the file that we'll be using for demonstration, transaction.xlsx. This first tab, clients and the transaction. This is the dummy data of clients with all the attributes like address, city, phone number, email address, and so on. And then are the transactions from 2017 all through 2020 for all these clients. Okay, so we can do some example of how to join these two tables and bring in attributes related to this client. We can try to find out top 10 clients, top 20 clients, and then we can bring in the information, or we can do like a summary of this huge data set that we have around 730,000 records. So if you have to even just open this file, it's going to take a lot of time. If you do through a normal method like open the file, activate the sheet, copy the data, and so on. Okay, in this way we are not going to open the Excel file itself. We're just going to connect to the Excel file using the connection, ADO connection, and we're going to pull the information, write the data to the table, or update the records. Okay, now just before we begin, if you go to VBA to Z our YouTube channel, and just search for, let's go to the video section and search for ADO active data objects. You'll see a lot of examples that I've already done for SharePoint, SQL Server, Access database, and all this. How to update, how to add new data, how to loop through the records. So many examples. Okay, so here, once you know how to work with any of this database, it's the same all across the way you'll be working with. Okay, and I've just done a very high level here, so there are so much more you can explore. It's so powerful. Okay, now if you go to my blog and search here for ADO, there are many sample codes that I use for all these videos have been uploaded here, so you can directly copy and directly start using it. For example, here this must be updating the salary field with 50,000 as a demonstration. There are some SQLs. I'll also give you a bit of background. SQL is actually just like a very simple sentence in a way, so it's not difficult to learn SQL at all, but it's very useful, especially working with ADO. So all these are the sample codes you can use. Okay, now let's get into it. First we need a connection string, so let's go to connectionstring.com, and from here you can select any of the database or server you need. For now we just need a connection string for Excel, so I'm going to go in there, and if you scroll down here, so here it has a string for XLSX, for trading data as text, XLSB, XLSM, and all. Okay, so for now, since our file that we are trying to use is XLSX, I'm gonna copy the XLSX string. Okay, and we'll start off with a new file. Let me just save this file as I'm gonna save this file here as ADO demo. So I have removed all my customization. I'm doing some lesson for absolute beginners. You must have seen, if anyone is looking for where to learn new VBA, they can come to the community tab here and use this link to sign up, and I'll be sharing the lesson as soon as possible. So if you have anyone who is interested, please share the link with them. That will be helpful. So this is our connection string we need. and looks like okay, I'll put it here. So we have the connection string. First step for us here will be to add a reference to ADO. So Microsoft Active Data Objects, whatever is the highest, you can check those. Okay. Again, you might not use this often, but this is gonna be very handy if you do not have much option with you only have Excel as your option, then it's gonna be very useful. Okay, so this is a connection string we need. This is where our file path goes. So let me get this data and update it here. Okay, so that's our file path. Headers, yes. This I'm just gonna leave all this as default. So first thing we'll need is to because we are gonna reuse the connection and again, instead of setting up a connection for every process, I'm gonna write like a create a public connection, and then all these processes that we'll be creating can refer to this connection. So first, let's set up the connection. So let's call this connection X as ADODB dot connection, and then we'll write first function will be to open the connection or create a connection. Open connection, something like this, and here so here we can set up this connection, set this connection connection, and then with this connection we can set up with dot connection string is equal to this and then here we can say open. Okay, and we can say as boolean if in case it errors, and then we can okay, and we need to close function to close as well. So let's call this close connection. Maybe connection XL. We'll call this connection XL. And here we can check if the status is currently open, and then we can close the connection after executing the process. Okay, so we'll need to see if this dot state and then dot it's going to be add state open. Okay, so we'll see if Sybil basically validate if these conditions are true. If that's true, then we can close the connection. And I think we'll just return true. If it errors, we're not expecting it to error, but anyways, let's keep it consistent. True and false. Okay, so now our connection is ready. Excuse me. Okay, so if this is true, close, else don't do anything. Okay, now let's give it a shot. So you don't need to have this open. We'll first try maybe writing it to this this table. So the sheets which you add here will be considered as a table, and the first one will be the header. I'll show you like ways to refer to this. Okay, now let's first write the code, and then we'll close this and we'll try to see if it updates. Let's first try the update method. Let's call this sub update table. Let's make this not update. Let's first try the insert. We'll add a new data here. So let's try the SQL approach. Let's say insert SQL equal to a string. Sorry, this is what happens when you code in multiple places. So our insert SQL will be the syntax is very simple. So insert into the table, and then the field names where you want to insert, and then you specify the values what you want to insert in those fields. Okay, so insert into, and then we want to insert into this transactions table. So I'll copy this. So one thing to note here is when you're working in SharePoint, you have to specify these brackets, square brackets, and then when you're working with Excel, you have to specify the tables with a $sign like this. Okay, in the end. And then here we specify the field names, so we want to insert into these fields. So let me just bring it here. So these fields as well, let's put them in this format, and this. Oops. So these are the fields where we want to insert the data to. Okay, and then now we can specify let's close this bracket, values, and then this is where we specify. So in the same order that you specified here, you can specify the values as well. So for date, client ID, and the amount. Okay, so let's say that we want to insert for client 7. So values first will be to date. Okay, so let's specify the date. Date will have to go in a proper date format, so you can specify maybe today's date, which is 12th July 2020, and the third one is going to be the amount. Okay, so it can be any random amount. The amount will go without, you already know this. So let's say we want to, like, this is a number that you want to write, okay, without any double quotes. Okay, so this is our SQL. Basically now quickly going through it again. Insert into this table, okay, insert into these fields, and in this order, okay, these fields, and then these are the values for this field. So in a date, we'll write this value. In client, we're gonna write this, and then amount, we're gonna write this. Okay, now there are ways to like directly export, or basically select everything from one table, and then you can directly write it to that table as well. There are examples like this as well in the channel, so just check that out. Now what we need to do is we need to use this connection. So first we'll have to open the connection. So we'll just say connection open, and then connection close. Okay, so this will take care of opening the connection and closing the connection. Now with this connection, so if this is set up correctly, all right, then we will have this connection active, and then using that connection we can execute this SQL. Okay, so this is a SQL, and then you can also see the number of records it affected. So let's try this. This is SQL. Okay, I'm not gonna use anything else for now. Let me close this. So now here we have 12:30 client is 500. I'm gonna save this. I'm gonna this file is quite heavy. If you look here, this is 17 MB at the moment. Okay, I'm gonna close this and let's see if it works. First, I'm gonna just press F8 and go through it. Let me quickly check one thing. So this has to end with this, okay, semicolon, and so let's see if it opens the connection. The file path is fine. This okay. Okay, the connection opens, so the property is now set to true. It's gonna execute this particular string, SQL, and then once it's done, it will go into this line. Just give it a moment. Now we can close the connection. Okay, so that was good. Just need to exit function here. All right, so now let's try one more for the same date. Let's try for client 8, and let's see the amount is this. Now I'm gonna straightforward run it, and then we'll open the file and verify it. Okay, so it's done. Let's open up this file. Okay, so you can see here we have added 2 records for this date for client 7 and 8, and this is the amount. Okay, so that's a very simple way to add using SQL command. Now for all this SQL, I find let's say left join, something like this. You'll land to w3school.com. Not all of them will be relevant for this particular Excel, but there are very good examples that you can use. I find it very easy to follow their tutorials, so I kind of recommend them. This side, for example, insert into SQL. Okay, here insert into this table. These are the columns, and then if you have more columns, you specify more columns, values, and then this, and then the semicolon. Okay, so this is how you can do it. And there are examples. You can actually practice it here yourself if you want to gain some expertise around this. Okay, but it's very simple. SQL is very simple, so it's just give it a try, and then it should not be a problem. Now let's try one more method of adding the data. Maybe this method. I'll just copy this. We're not going to reuse all this, but so that we don't have to rewrite, and I'll quickly talk you through what is it. So here we already have we don't need to set up a connection, so here is what we need to use. This connection to open our database. I'm gonna remove all the loops, and instead of this, if you okay, let me just first set this up. So open the connection, close the connection here. The reason for me showing this is so that you can directly go and copy this and reuse most of them. We're not gonna add any handler. So here we are this is we are declaring RS. Basically this is the table, stands for record set, and then here we are setting up what is our record set, and then we are opening this record set. Now the table we want to open is transactions and not that. So here you can specify like this as well. Select all, star represents the all from this table. Okay, you can also specify like this. or you can specify a SQL here and then pass the SQL here. So open this table and then using this statement and then using this connection, and this is gonna be the cursor type and the log type. Okay, so here you can see cursor type, this is the log type. So if you want to edit, then you have to open up in this arguments. Okay, so in this part it's saying for in this table add new using add new method, and then for these fields we are assigning these values. So if we try in this similar fashion, so for the date, I don't remember trying this out in Excel using this method, but let's give it a shot. If it works, good. So first is the date. Let's say again we'll put it for the same date for a different client, maybe this time 9, and amount we'll just type it. Let's say the amount is like this. Now you can leave this open as well, that should not be a problem. Okay, gonna give it a shot. Syntax error in from close. Just give me 1 second. This method seems to be causing a bit of problem with the SQL. Let's try like it is in the zone here. We'll just specify the table like this. Source, and then the connection, and then the cursor type. This has to be the client ID, the field name. This can be written also as in this format, dot fields, and here you can specify the field name, for example client ID. You can also specify in this fashion. Okay, but if the field name is straightforward like this without any gap, then you can use this format. So let's say we want to try for 10 and always longer as compared to the subsequent ones. Let's see if it wrote any value here. Okay, so that seems to be the value we tried to write. 458, client 10, and then the date. Okay, so this method also works, but I don't know why this part is not able to make it work, but in other database and servers it should work. Okay, so this is 2 ways to update. In case you have to loop through and update many records based on the table, then you use the update batch method, okay, instead of this. And you don't have to update every time. After you write all the values, you can update the batch as shown here. Okay, so if you look here, it's looping through to the last row and then adding the records, for example. So you use this method. If any one of you find see this error, there is a way to handle this as well, so watch out for that. Now let's try update method, and then we'll go to how to import all the data. Let's call this we'll just replicate this, but instead of insert we'll use update records. And so here the update SQL, if we just want to, I'll just give you a demo. Update SQL. So update table name, the column, the value, okay, and then column 2 value if you want to update more, and then where condition. Okay, so I'm just gonna keep it here, x is equal to this, and then put it like this for now, and we want to update this table, and let's say that we want to update the amount field. And we'll update the value something like this. I'll just remove this for now, and then there's no space there. Let's say we want to update this value. So our condition, let's say that because there are many client 1 repeating here, let's say we want to update this particular record. So our condition will be where date is equal to this, and then the client is equal to this. Okay, so let's try this. Where date is equal to this. Again, this date has to go in this format, and like we do in any other VBA, we'll just put in the condition. Oh, sorry, this has to be like this, and then this equal to this. Okay, so update this table, set the value this to amount, where the condition date is this and the client ID is this. Let's give it a try. Now instead of update, we could just call it SQL. That's fine. Now we don't need this update, we don't need the insert. So open the connection, using the connection execute, and then let's say we want to know how many records are impacted. We can declare a variable as long, and here we can specify. So here is the command and records affected. Okay, like this. We can call this request as variant. Oops, sorry. This is equal to this, and maybe we can just debug.print records impacted count. Let's see, I'll just leave this open for now. It's the same though. So it's printed here 1 record is impacted, and if we go here, this has been updated here. Okay, so that is working. You can follow this similar method as well to update. For the sake of time, I'm not gonna go through all of them, but here, for example, instead of adding new, you can just remove this, and you can loop through, and then you can update records. Okay, so there are two, multiple ways to update as well. So you can use this SQL command, or you can use by going through the records. By the way, you can open specific view by passing your filters like this, and then you can update those records as well. There, again, please refer to the blog. There are many examples how to loop through all the records and all this. Okay, now I'll demonstrate few examples how to import data. First, let's replicate yeah, I think this process. Let's call this import data. Let's say that we want to import all the data from this client's table first. Let's keep it simple. So we'll call this team SQL as string. SQL is equal to select, again, this star is basically all. Select asterisk from this table and this. Instead of the fixed name, we'll specify this. Sorry, we need to close the table. So opening the table with the source connection. Again, here we are opening the connection, and then we're setting up the record set, which is basically the table, and we are opening that. Instead of opening, like the entire table, you can also specify to open a specific filtered data, right? So that it's faster in that way. And then these are the log type and the cursor type. I'm just gonna leave that as it is. This part's close the table, clears the memory, and close the connection. Okay. Now I think it will be a good idea as well for us to clear so that it does not create a memory issue. Okay, and here, so basically we are opening this entire client table, and then from here we can use a method called copy from record set. And first we need to specify where we want to import the data to. So we want to import it to sheet 1. So, and maybe for now, sorry, we'll import it to 1. Okay. Copy from, and then rs. So this is what we are copying to this particular cell. Okay, whatever is the result of this SQL. Okay, so let's try to run this. Okay. Okay, so that was pretty fast. Let me close this and try to run it one more time. So the best part about this ADO here is how fast it is. Especially now, we don't even have to open the workbook. You can directly import the data, okay, by just connecting to the Excel workbook using the connection. So here, if you see here, it's just bringing us the data without the headers. So in case you need to write the headers as well, we need to implement that. Let's say that, so let's say fill index, something like that, as long, and then before we print the data, we can print the headers first. So for this is equal to the index of the field starts from 0 to then rs dot fields dot count. Based on the cursor type and all this, this might not be available as well, so watch out for that. You need to set up correctly. Okay, now here we want to now write it to second. The first row will be the headers. Okay, and then here we can say cells sheet 1 dot this, row this, and this is gonna be the column we want to write to. Dot value is equal to rst dot this fields, and this will become the index dot name. This should give us the name of the field. Okay, so here it is going to look through all the columns within the whatever is your selection. If you specify to bring in only 2 fields, which I'll demonstrate in a bit, it will print that headers only. Okay, so let's give it a try. Okay, so here are all the headers and all your data set. Now let's say we want to import only the data. Let's say we want to bring in only few fields. Client ID, client first name, state. Okay, so let's say we want to bring in only these fields. Then you can specify that here. Select, instead of all, we can specify this. First, let me show you this method. This first name as well, and the state. and then next we can put in a criteria. Now we can clear out the data before we write it. Dot cells dot clear. We'll clear off everything. So let's try this. Okay, so now we limited it to just bring in only 3 fields. This is how you can do it. Now if you want to filter on specific state, let's say we want to bring in only the data from NS, we can specify here where state is equal to NS, like this. Now it is only bringing only this data for NS, or we can also say or W. What was that? I forgot. WA, is it? Okay, yeah. So okay. Now this same code can be rewritten as the SQL. Sometimes this also should work unless there is specific restriction for Excel. Okay, so this also works. For the fields, I did not put in the brackets, but it still works. Now let's say that we want to bring in the data from 2 tables. Let's try that. Before we jump into that, let me give you a quick by the way, you can go here and always check it out about how to connect 2 tables. Basically those are called joins. Now let's import the data from this table for a specific criteria, and then maybe we can get the attributes as well from here. Maybe we'll try to get the state along with this, okay, for a specific month or so. So before I talk to you regarding joins, I have this small table to demonstrate this. So we will try inner join, left and right join. Okay, this name might be not familiar, but it's very simple. In inner join, so for example, let's say that we are joining these 2 tables using this inner join. It is basically gonna return, let's say that we are linking these 2 tables. When you are using inner join, then it's gonna return only the records that matches in both the tables. So let's say that this is our key, for this our key, and we're trying to link it. Okay, so the records which are matching are apple, grapes, and then apple and grapes. I think that's it. Okay, we don't have banana this side. Okay, so it's just gonna return this 2 table. Okay, so let's say that this is a mapping table and this is transaction table, clients table, transaction table. Now if you want the attributes, probably the way you will maintain is that you always update your clients table first, and then the transaction table will always be able to look up. But then you have more options like left join and then the right join. Okay, in the left join, it's going to return all the data from this table and the ones that are matching from the second table. In the right join is vice versa, so it's going to return all the data from this table and the ones that are matching from this table. Okay, so we can quickly have this, and then if we have to find out what are the records which are not matching in these 2 tables, there are ways to tackle that as well. So I'll quickly demonstrate that. So let's say that SQL is equal to select, and let's specify the fields we want to select. First, we want to bring in these fields. And let's say we want to bring in first name, and let's say the state, and then from We wanted to bring this from clients. Now we can like we did earlier, or not yet. We can specify alias as well. Instead of, for example, let's say that client ID is in two tables. So if you want to specify from which table we are supposed to fetch, we can specifically say this client ID. Okay, so instead of using this long convention all the time, we can specify this as C or something like that. So instead of this, we can substitute it like this. Okay, so for the client ID, we'll take it from client table, and then let's say we'll take this, we'll set up an alias in just a moment. So transaction table date, transaction table amount, client dot first name, and client table dot state, and then this will be from this as C, and then here we will set inner join. We will join with transaction table. Excuse me. ST. Okay, so this is now in place. Okay, and here, so we have done the inner join with this transaction table, and we need to specify the key. Okay, and then we'll specify on. Now we'll say that C dot client ID is equal to T dot client ID. So we're saying link these two tables using the client ID, this and this. So it's like you're doing a VLOOKUP using this client ID against this. Okay, and then again the inner join will return in your result. It's gonna return only the matching records. So let's say you are doing this in a VLOOKUP. If it returns NA, this SQL is not gonna bring in anything. Okay, it's not gonna do any VLOOKUP, by the way, but that's just an example. Okay, and here you can specify your condition as well. For example, let's say we don't want to bring in for all the states, but we want to bring in for a specific state. You can specify let's say again WA, only the WA clients. You can specify in this fashion. So let's give it a try. So quickly again, select these fields, date, client ID, amount, first name, state from clients table as C, thus alias, and then we are using inner join to join these two tables. So it's gonna bring in only matching records. Inner join to transaction table ST, and then on this, the way these are linked is clients table client ID with transaction table client ID, and these are where condition. Okay, now let's try this. So there's more data now. It's going to take a bit more time as compared to fetching the data just from one table. Okay, so if I go in here to our file, so bringing the amount, the client's first name, and the state, the date, and the client ID as well. Okay, so I think it's pretty simple. If you don't get it at first, just try it multiple times. You'll just get familiar with this in just within no time. Okay, just give it a try. Now couple of more examples and we'll wind up for this short series, I would say. Now let's say that we want to bring in okay, it doesn't make sense now to do the left join and the right and all this because we are not doing any comparison as such. But just imagine that you have two tables like this. I'll just create two tables here. Let's call this T1, and then I'm gonna create another table here, and let's say this is T2, table 1 and 2. Okay, this is just to demonstrate how to use the left and right. This kind of good when you have to do the comparison between two tables. So let's say that these two records, the bottom two records, are not. I'll just get rid of it. So the difference now is just this record here. Okay. Now I'm going to join these two tables using client ID again, using the same. Date client ID. The fields are consistent in both, so now it really doesn't matter. Now one more example for inner joint transaction. So instead of this, we're gonna use T1, and then this is gonna be T1. Actually, the order does not matter. This is gonna be T2 or table 2, and then this is gonna, I'll call this as T1 only, or A and B. Okay, and B, first table and second table. Okay, and then that means we have to rewrite this part. It's not much. As A, and then inner join table 2 as B, and then we'll say A client ID with B client ID, and we do not have where here. Okay, now let's try this. Now it's supposed to bring in all the 16 records, because this is not matching, so this should be skipped. Okay, while importing. So let's give it a try. Let me rerun this part. Okay, so we have all these group items, and here it'll be good to sum this instead of grouping it. And here we have till 15th only, right? So if you go back here, second table has till 17, but it brought in only the matching record, so that is inner join. So now let's say we want to bring in, I'll add more fields here in table 1. So these are the fields which will not be there in second table here. Okay, this from 20 to 22. Okay, so now let's try left join first, and then we'll try the right join. So it's gonna be same syntax. Let's just replicate this, just that instead of inner join, we'll try the left join first. Okay, there's a code to delete, so we don't have to delete it. Okay, so now it returned all the data from the first table, 18 records. If I do this, okay, and then it returned all the matching ones from the second table. Now if we do the right join, it's going to do vice versa. It will return all the records from second table and only the matching ones from the second table. So if we have like additional attribute here, you'll be able to, you know, like visualize it better, but I cannot set it up for the time's sake. I'm not gonna go about doing that now. And now let's try the right join. ADO sample. Okay, I'm just gonna run this. Now 19 records, second table has what? So I think there was some caching issue earlier with the when we tried the right join. So I just deleted all the data and make the sample lesser. So these are all the data here in T2 and here's in T1. Now if I run this, the same SQL that we created, okay, this one, right, if I run this, so it will just return only all the records from second table and all the ones that are matching in this table. Okay, so you can see the results here. Okay guys, that's gonna be all for this video. I hope you found it informative and useful. If so, do not forget to leave a like and comment if you do have any questions. Thank you so much for watching. Have a good day. Bye bye.